Guys, I'm back and today I'm doing a review of Season 2 of Good Omens. Before we get started, please make sure to click the subscribe button so you can get more of these random reviews. Such a great sell. And if you didn't notice, I'm wearing like this spiritual magic shirt, which I just found and I've never worn before, so opportunity has come. I know, kind of random, but I think it fits the vibe. So, I will say first of all, I know in the thumbnail for this video, I made it seem very dramatic that I did not like this season. Like, I'm just like, it's a bad fantasy. I would say I don't hate this season. I still do like it a bit. But just like, it felt like a letdown from what I expected. But yeah, I'm not completely hating on the season, just to clarify. See, the problem I had with the season basically is that the first season of the show, I really liked how the story worked. It felt like it was fantasy with some personal storylines going on, and I found that really interesting. And then this season, it is more romance and personal storylines with a very little bit of fantasy put in. And there's plenty of shows that do that kind of thing, and they're fine, but it's just not my preference. Okay, let's start off with humor. I feel like the show created really iconic humor, which made it stand out from other fantasies. And I liked it a lot. It was basically like this absurd British humor, where they said all these ridiculous things out of nowhere. Like, there'd be like these little snippets where a narrator would make fun of the angels and demons. Like, one example is when the narrator was like, hey, how many angels and demons can dance on a pin? Now, obviously that is absurd. It has nothing to do with the actual plot, but I really enjoyed those. I thought they were quite funny. And I feel like they just added like this nice humor to the storyline. Unfortunately, that narrator is gone from the season, and those snippets are gone. I think it's because of Neil Gaiman, the other guy, not Neil Gaiman. There was another guy who wrote maybe the first season, and like he wasn't there for the season, and I feel like I missed that part. And Neil Gaiman has some great humor, but it's not the same. And there was also this other kind of humor in it where like the dynamic between the characters was quite funny. Like, we got Crowley to Aziraphale, right? Where Crowley's like this timid guy who's really unsure of himself, and Crowley's like the snap out of it guy, very sarcastic and very funny. And they kind of have this nice dynamic going on where they make fun of each other. I guess you could say it like that. Or maybe it's mostly Crowley making fun of Aziraphale, let's face it. But like, it's still a very funny dynamic. And then there's also a nice dynamic between the other characters as well. Like, the four horsemen were kind of funny in like their messed up ways. And then I really liked the entertaining part between Newt and Anathema the witch, where basically Newt was really timid and Anathema was basically like pushing him into this prophecy, and then Newt was criticizing her for being obsessed with prophecies, and they kind of like both fought each other, and it was really funny. And I like Crowley's here for this season. They also have an awesome dynamic of humor this season. They're fine. That's what I like about this season. But I don't like the new characters. I just feel like they didn't have the same humor as the characters created in season 1. Like, I believe it's Winsy and Nina? I think I got that right. And it's supposed to be very similar to like the timid Winsy and confident Nina. But their storylines were kind of forced into the fantasy storyline, and it really didn't work. And like, I couldn't really get invested in either of them. Like, they had nothing to really do with the plot for fantasy stuff. They're kind of forced in there by this thing where Aziraphale was like, oh, let's make them fall in love. Like, that was so forced. And the whole thing with like Winsy having a toxic, I I think no, it's Nina. Nina has a toxic romance going on, but like I didn't really care. Like that feels so standard. It doesn't feel like it's really that special. Like not to make it seem like it's bad, but like for a fantasy show, you wanted to have something to do with fantasy, and neither of these characters really had anything to do with the fantasy going on. Yeah, that's another thing that I wasn't a fan of. But let's move on to the actual plot because I seem to be meandering there anyway. So plot wise, I forgot the show was fantasy several times during this. It made it feel like a romance with fantasy. Now, don't get me wrong, those shows can be very entertaining, like Discovery of Witches. You know that's a romance. But like I didn't want it from this show. I expected fantasy. I feel like they tried doing this build up where like they try to make you think that a second Armageddon was happening, but it never really came, which really made me upset. Like Gabriel shows up with a box and he's like, "Oh, something terrible is coming," and then he's humming the song where it's like something terrible is coming in the future. And then Aziraphale and Crowley are so nervous, so they keep him hidden there. And then nothing terrible came at the end. So I'm like, what the heck? Like it creates so much build up. Like you keep wondering why was Gabriel erasing his memory, what stuff was hidden from him. Why is there this music tape that keeps saying the something is coming? Like I thought when that music was saying something is coming, I thought it was Armageddon coming. Like this season was nothing compared to last season in terms of tension. Like in the first season, literally the end of the world was coming. In this season, there was no Armageddon. Yeah, that was another problem I had with this. Like the whole thing with Beelzebub and Gabriel was the reason for the music tape. I was not okay with that. Like when they had like this music clue, I thought that would be more important to like some kind of fantasy thing with like an Armageddon. And then it's basically just a romance for Gabriel and Beelzebub, and I'm just like, why? And then also at the end, I feel like everything was like ended. Like all like the tension just like ended. Like there was no apocalypse or anything. Like as soon as they find out that oh Gabriel was with you guys. Oh, okay, I guess he's with Beelzebub now. Bye bye guys. Like they just leave them. Like that does not feel like the same heaven and hell demons and angels that were there in the first season. Just forgiving them like that. And also, why would they give Aziraphale the highest position? I feel like that's very suspect. Like Aziraphale is not exactly the most reliable angel. He's always questioning them, doing his own thing. Like he'd be the worst candidate to be running a second Armageddon. So I feel like there's something very suspect with that. I feel like the Megatron's up to something. The romance though, because I know that this season was mainly romance. So I will comment on that. So, romance, right? I do like the romances from the first season. And there's basically just one where it's Newt and Anathema. I like that one. Like I thought they had a solid dynamic where they both improved each other and they were both really useful to the plot, so you could still be invested in them. Like I don't hate on romance. I like it if it's useful to the plot. Like if it's like a subplot. But yeah, I like the thing between Newt and Anathema. They were helping improve each other, like I said, kind of giving each other their own sense of identity. And I like how they threw out the prophecy at the end to be together, I guess. I thought that was pretty cool. I will say, Lindsay and Nina do not have that dynamic as much. I just feel like it was kind of pushed in there to be similar to the first time with Newt and Anathema. But those guys just aren't as interesting. Like, I'm far more interested in a witch and a defective computer engineer than I am in a coffee shop owner and a record lady. Yeah, and I will say, for Crowley and Aziraphale, I've never been a huge fan of the whole romance idea with them. Like, I know it's very popular, but I just don't get it. I always thought that they were like best friends. Like they look out for each other and they support each other. But I just don't see them as like in a romantic relationship. And I'm not hating on the people who do think that, but I just never really felt it. I just felt like they're like solid guy best friends who give each other emotional support. But the whole thing with forcing them to like be in a romance with a kiss in the end felt very forced. It's not my thing. Now, I will say, as for the whole thing where they kind of split apart at the end, I definitely saw that coming. That was no surprise to me at all. Like, Aziraphale has always been the hopeful one who thinks that he can change things, that he's on the good side. While Crowley has always been the more logical one who knows the reality is that nothing can truly change between, like, heaven being heaven and the other side being the other side. So, of course, Aziraphale is going to be hopeful and thinking he can become the new leader and change. While Crowley's going to be like, definitely not. And I will say it was sad to see them part ways because even though I don't like them having a romantic relationship, I still think they had a really solid friendship, and that does make me a little bit sad to see them splitting. So yeah, that is all my ramble thoughts on Good Omens Season 2. And have a nice day. Or a bad day. Bye.